Hi everyone, welcome back to another update on the status of the Spectrum game tool. Um, Quite a few changes again this time round, but again mostly under the hood, hopefully in service of a better editor, a more usable editor in the future. But thought I'd go through them a little bit as it's been a while since I did the last video. Just list them in order. So first of all, there was the concept before of global objects that were placed within a room. Um, Anyone who's seen the previous videos will know the player was that type of object where you'd place an object in the room and there was a flag in here that identified it as global, and this meant that the way that the logic that moved it around would adapt to the fact that it could move between rooms and existed on a slightly different coordinate system to objects that are tied to a room. So I wasn't entirely happy with that, and with the advent of the map editor and all the facilities in here, it seemed to make more sense to me to move global objects into the map. So that's what I've done, and you can see the map editor's changed a little bit to allow you to place objects in the map as well now. So the player has moved into here and has that position in global coordinates now, so it's not tied to any particular room and doesn't need to be marked as global. It is global by the nature of the fact that it's been added within the map rather than in the room. So I think that makes a little bit more sense, and I'll show you. It doesn't make much difference in terms of the actual exported code. It's just an editor, nice to have. Another change is around objects and animation frames. So you remember I was using the big X's to mark. If we go to the sprites, I've got this particular sprite that I was using to mark the location of collision detection areas for moving between rooms. So that was just a placeholder at the time. What I've done now is allow objects to not have any visual representation. So the bubble has a single sprite, the portal has none, which means it won't be exported with all the code and memory use that a sprite would need. It's just an object that has a location and and logic and other things, but no visual representation. And the player has a single sprite. But in doing so, I've also extended this slightly so that you can now add multiple frames of animation to an object. This isn't enabled within the actual runtime at the moment, but it will allow you to do animated sprites and in the logic change the current frame. Another thing you may notice up here is the inclusion of these two new buttons in the main toolbar. So I've started implementing an undo redo system. Thankfully, building this in Godot makes that relatively simple to do, because Godot does have built into its engine an undo redo system that you can reuse within games as well as in editor extensions. I've only just begun this, but I've implemented a few things just to test the logic of it. So for example, in the room editor, if you move an object and then undo, it snaps back. But there are other things it does. So for example, in the sprites, if we add a sprite, undo works and redo works as well. So I've started putting that in. It's going to take a little while to go through and switch all of the code that makes changes to the game data to use the undo system, but I figured that was a good thing to get in now before the editor becomes too complex and the work involved in retrofitting undo redo becomes unmanageable. So I'll be going through doing that and making sure that everything can be undo and redo supported. Just makes it a little bit easier to work and a little bit less scary when you're making lots of changes. And the other thing is the editor, the exporter interface has changed slightly. I wasn't happy with it exporting a single file and just popping up a file selector to select the header file that you export to. The reason being, I believe that the exporter functionality will extend over time to require exporting more than just a single file. In fact, that's what it does now. So I can show you that. So basically it brings up an options dialog which just has a single option in it at the moment for this particular exporter, which is a target directory. So if I choose a target directory, it'll just output all files that it needs to into that folder. And what it does now is the harness, the C code that constitutes the harness in the export, is actually exported into that folder from the editor as well. So there's no need to copy things around. It puts the C file, which is fixed, the header file, which is generated from the game data that you're working on, and a make file. So it makes it really easy to just export, go into your command line prompt, type in make, and then run it in your exporter, in your emulator. So if you export now, it exports in two stages and creates those 3 files, as I say. And then you can make, and just to show a little bit more about what I've changed in terms of if I go to the map, you see I've changed the layout of the map. So now we've got these collision detection points on all rooms now at the doors, going in and out in all places. So in the map, it's now possible to travel around all 3 of these rooms, which, if this works as planned, I should be able to demonstrate. So as you go out of here, it takes you into that room, and again up here you can travel freely between rooms, and it just switches the rooms based on the logic assigned to each of those collision detection points. You'll also notice, I don't know if anyone noticed before, but there was some sprite corruption coming into play when you switched rooms. Some little dots were appearing on the bubble and the player character. I've managed to fix that. It was an issue with the way that the room redraw was working in the Z88 DK sprite library, so that seems a little bit better now. So that's about it, I think, for now. I think that's the status as it stands. I shall continue, as I say, going through putting undo redo across the board, so that makes it a little bit more friendly. And then next up is probably things like the animation in the engine and colour. At the moment there's no way of putting colour into a room, and I want to be able to assign a colour map of attributes per room, but also allow it to be overridden. So I'm looking at that next. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to be kept up to date with changes as I continue making improvements in this new tool. See you next time.